So, two things we need to reflect on very quickly, because I don't want to keep you any longer than is necessary, since we have celebrated our evening Mass a bit late than the usual time for Mass. So one is that today we in our group opted to celebrate the external feast of the Sacred Heart of Jesus, because we didn't have time to celebrate it on its proper day, because it didn't fall on our usual schedule to say the extraordinary rite or the traditional Latin Mass. So very quickly, we will speak about this feast in honor of the Sacred Heart. It can be said that in the history of the Church, the first known liturgical celebration in honor of the Sacred Heart of Jesus happened around the year 1670 in a seminary like ours, like where we are now. This was after St. John Eudes had written the text for the liturgy, especially for the Mass, and in the seminary a liturgical celebration was made in honor of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. But certainly the Sacred Heart of Jesus and the devotion to it especially dates back to many centuries back in the history of the Church. The first interest that the early Church took on this flesh that belongs to the part of our body, the body of our Lord, began the time during the Crusades, when many went to the Holy Land to fight for the recovery of the land against those who wished to take it away from Christianity. And those who returned have developed a passion for a reflection on the passion of Jesus. There was an interest regarding the meditation on the passion of Jesus, and since as we heard from the Gospel today, part of the passion narrative includes the event or the detail regarding how the heart of Jesus was wounded, when his side was pierced with a lance, out of which came blood and water. Then soon enough, devotion on this wounded heart of Jesus became central to the life of prayer among many. Many mystics, religious congregations also soon followed in the same devotion and piety. But the first significant moment in the devotion happened when a certain Sister Gertrude had a vision on the face of St. John the Evangelist about the Sacred Heart. It happened in this manner. She was present at the Last Supper when St. John the Evangelist reclined at table and placed his head closest to the breast of Jesus. And then it was at this moment that St. Gertrude was given an opportunity to do the same. And when she placed her head close to the breast or the chest of Jesus, who was seated with the apostles in this mystical vision, she heard the beating of the sound of the beating of his heart. And it was like music that like she has never heard before. So much so that she actually asked the Apostle John, "How is it that you never told us how the heart of Jesus sounded?" And John the Evangelist was said to have responded in this vision, "Well, it is reserved for a later time when men would turn cold towards their love for the Lord, and then this listening to the heartbeat of the heart of Jesus will reawaken them out of their lukewarmness and indifference." And true enough, St. Mary Alacoque, years and years later, another sister from Paray-le-Monial in France, had a similar mystical experience regarding Jesus, who showed to her his wounded heart. And then from her came the devotion of the First Friday, communion as we have known it now, because Jesus wanted Mary Alacoque to encourage people to make amends to men's indifference towards this heart that loves and burns fiercely for love of men, but has been neglected and maligned and rejected. Where does this whole history of the devotion take us in our own day and age? Perhaps we remember what Pope Francis said. He began by quoting Pius XII, who said that the greatest tragedy of our times is that we have lost our sense of sin. We do not call sin anymore because it has become trendy and fashionable. But the Pope was quick to add, but there is a greater tragedy. that humanity now does not believe in the opportunity, or does not believe in giving people a second chance, or that forgiveness is possible at all once a person has sinned. And the Pope has made it as his rallying cry in his whole pontificate to extend God's mercy, especially to those who need it the most. More than those who regularly frequent the church, he wants those who have stayed away from the church to experience something of God's mercy during his pontificate. And we only need to remember the fake news that proliferated over the social network regarding a sermon that Bishop Sok Villegas supposedly preached, encouraging the survivor of the family tragedy that's where the members of the family were massacred on a drug-related incident, and I think it was the father alone who survived, and to him, Bishop Sok was preaching forgiveness, and netizens were saying, good for you that it does not happen, but what if you were the victim? Would you be able to forgive? Later on, we found out that Bishop Sok did not even say that. But it does go to show that we live in a generation where forgiveness is next to impossible, and the message of the Sacred Heart awakens that as a value in our lives. The second point, which is rather short, is to just say that tonight also, on the occasion of the external feast, we are celebrating or observance of the external solemnity of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. We are also marking the 10th anniversary of the document Summorum Pontificum. This was one of the last documents that Pope Benedict XVI issued before his retirement, allowing the regular use of the old liturgy prior to the Second Vatican Council to be used without special permission, and to be allowed in places where people crave or feel the need for it. It has regularized the celebration of what we refer to as the 1962 rubrics, which is basically what we're doing now this evening, to allow the people of God greater access to it. People react to this saying that it's drawing people back to what the Second Vatican Council wanted to achieve, which is participation, etc. Or some people are afraid that if we have too much of the old liturgy, people will begin to compare, and then they will reject the new liturgy in favor of the old. But I think the whole point in the restoration of these 1962 rubrics for the Mass and for the liturgy of the hours is actually to highlight the beauty of Catholic life, that in worship we have variations, each one encouraging the other to be more beautiful than what it can do. Because after all, this worship is centered on God, and there can never be enough beauty when it comes to the worship of God. And this is our modest hope that through our simple celebration of the old rite, we will be able to contribute to that sense of beauty that is very much needed in our worship of God, because it brings people closer to God.